We're back. The 2023 edition of Shively and Shoulders is now going to happen right before your very eyes. Patrick, what do you think about that?
Well, this station already has a show called Antiques Roadshow. What are they thinking?
Well, maybe just maybe that we brought something else to the table.
I'm honored that whatever marketing and super deep research they've ever done suggested that people wanted us back on the air in a limited edition.
Well, and that's great, and they sort of tailored it a little bit so I can still remain on the bench and still have time with you.
Which means he can't really be as controversial as I can. Fight with one hand behind his robe.
That's right.
I think it's great. Our show was important because we could feature new candidates, young candidates,
Right.
old candidates, and bring them to the viewer where they don't have to pay for a 30-second sound bite. And we've got an example of that today.
Exactly. We have our very first guest for the 2023 edition of Shively and Shoulders. When we come back, our new prosecutor, Diana Moers.
We will make history today, tonight, in a lot of ways. For the first guest of the Shively and Shoulders Renaissance, we have the first female elected prosecutor in the history of Vanderburgh County. We are honored, Madam Prosecutor, to have Diana Moers as our first guest. Welcome.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
Let's start with the fact, I got to tell you, because we're old timers and you're not,
Yeah.
you really do walk in the path cut by Estelle Moss, Shirley Jean Cox, Maggie Lloyd, I guess,
Yeah.
right? First
Sure.
judge.
Right.
Yeah.
Suzanne Crouch became lieutenant
Suzanne
governor.
Crouch was an auditor
Right.
here. I'm talking about women who broke
Right.
the mold, shattered the ceiling,
The glass ceiling.
the glass ceiling in Vanderburgh County, and prosecutor ain't no mean feat. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So
Yeah.
tell us, I think maybe one thing we can do with the viewers, because we have time and relax, is
Yeah.
tell all of those who contributed to the other side and maybe didn't vote for you a little bit about yourself, why you wanted the job, your background, and how you won.
Yeah. So about myself, I grew up in Evansville. I went to North High School, graduated from there in 2000.
A Husky.
Yeah, I'm a North Husky. Yeah, that's right. Went on to, except I went to the one on Stringtown Road. So,
The real North
Yeah,
High.
the real North High School, but not the original. And I also went to a signature school, but not the original. So I had to walk down the street to go to signature school in my day. But yeah, and so then I went to IU. I studied political science. At North High School, I got into, I think the very first time I sort of got the idea of being a lawyer was I was on the debate team, and I won state with Josh Claiborne. We were a duo in debate in 1999, and it did not come naturally at first. I was really shy and, broke out of the mold, and then I just fell in love with it. It was a lot of competition. So it was
Les was already looking at retirement in 1999, and you're starting to think about a career. So you
Yeah.
did go to, God bless you, child, for going to Indiana University.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
So
That's
you're
right, yeah.
in good company here.
Yes,
So then you go
yes.
to law school. Now then what?
Yeah, and then I started out my career in Chicago. I finished up law school in Chicago because I was in Michigan, and then I went over to Chicago. While I was in Michigan, I did a little bit of public defender work there for school, and then finished up watching litigation, downtown at the Daily Center in Chicago. So I
Got that feel for the courtroom.
Yeah, I got the feel for the courtroom.
We get that.
Yeah, and it was hands down, I never wanted to go to a big law firm or anything like that.
You had to come back to
Indiana.
Indiana to really see what justice is all about.
Yes,
right?
that's right. Yeah, I quickly learned that too as a young person. I thought maybe I don't want to live in Chicago forever, which I kind of knew. I worked for a great defense attorney there. Got my first prosecutor job there in Will County, Illinois, which was a super heavy courthouse. And in 2010, moved back to Indiana. Worked for the Secretary of State's office, traveling around the state prosecuting securities fraud, loan broker fraud, variety of courtrooms. Then 5 years later, the Treasurer of State called and needed an executive director of a board that watched over public funds. So that, kind of my finance background, but I really missed being in court. Ended up the Attorney General's office right before I ran for the campaign, where myself and my now chief deputy, we managed the largest litigation section in the office, and got to travel all around the state. And we were in federal court mostly, civil rights defense on behalf of the state and its agencies, and federal and state courts all over Indiana. So that's kind of my background.
You decided to run for prosecutor And it wasn't just one step,
Yeah.
it was multiple steps. You decided to run against an incumbent Republican in Republican primary last year.
Yeah.
Explain the thought process behind that.
Yeah. So, it had kind of been on my mind, and people say in my heart for a few years. And the time was coming, right? So, I keep in touch with what's going on back in Evansville. At this time I'm in Indy. I'm home all the time, and I just, like everybody else, was seeing the newspaper and stuff, and I thought, beforehand I would have been very confident with the court stuff already, but I managed this huge team of lawyers, so I felt I had the management experience also, and it's something I don't take lightly, running for office, especially to be a prosecutor. I don't consider myself, I like to watch politics like everybody else, and I'm always involved in it around, we're in and around the State House all the time, but never had run for office. And I always said if I did, I'd want it to be a lawyer job, because I love being a lawyer.
Right.
So that's the first thing. And I really was sitting at my desk one day, and I talked to my husband about it a little bit, and I was sitting at my desk one day, and I was like, well, surely someone's running against him, right?
So that's my question. Did you decide to run because, I'm thinking of it in the barnyard, the pecking party, the spot of blood, and now the chickens, and they keep pecking. We got a ridiculous local newspaper, but this newspaper, once they latched on, really never, whether he deserved it or not, it's not my business, but they reported. Is that what, did you run because you thought he was vulnerable? Had they not done that, would you have run?
Yeah, like if it was a beloved, prosecutor maybe that I felt was doing well, but it really, I had also, besides the articles and all of that, like I just felt like we could do better, I have friends in law enforcement and things like that, and I just thought I could make a positive change. And so, but yeah, I think if it was a very popular, beloved prosecutor, maybe I wouldn't have had so much of the oomph to do it, because by the time I decided to do it, I had to go through all the steps to get permissions and approvals and all of that for my current job because of the position I was in.
Sure.
And then I bought a house 18 months before that I absolutely loved, sold that, moved down here. It was very, very, very quick, and it was almost like I was watching myself do it, but I just had to do it. It was really just this total leap of faith, and I think being a little bit naive also helped, because you didn't have everybody along the way was like, oh, really, it's an incumbent, and what do you, this is crazy, and well, yeah, but
For young people out there, and of course everybody's younger than Les, except me, that's an excellent example. You talk about having a plan, sitting it out, having a dream, the steps, the building blocks.
And bottom line is you just did it.
Yeah,
You didn't think, what about this? Well, you just did it.
Yeah, I just I had to shove all that down, all those doubts, and I just thought, this is what I want to do. We only live once, and if not, I love Evansville. I'll be here. I'm a lawyer. I'll find another job.
Sure,
I'll find something else to do, but I just want to make a positive, honestly, I want to make a positive change, and that was what was like driving me. And I'm a very hard worker, so I had to fight for every dollar, and I never raised money before. I had to call
Isn't that
these
fun?
people. Yeah, it's amazing.
Les has run before. I ran for IU trustee, but that's a different kind of election. But let me ask you this: I can't remember because I always vote on the other side. But in the primary, was it just you and Nick?
Yes.
Well, how did you? I would have thought there would have been other suitors for that crown. Were there other? Did you have to go through that process of which one of us, and you shouldn't run, let me, and all of that?
No, and I just
amazing.
No, I met with the party chair and said, hey, I'm gonna run here. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. He was clearly vulnerable. You'd have thought there were other young Republican lawyers that might have sought that job.
I want to touch one little story before we conclude this, and we're far from concluding, but I called her up because I wanted to meet with her, because mental health court is near and dear to my heart. I wanted to make sure that you had the same commitment as your predecessor. And so we were trying to find a time to get together. This is before the election. And you picked on a Wednesday morning. And I said, gee, I teach at Ivy Tech. I said, well, I'll just meet you half hour before class. She was there at 7:30, and we spent a nice hour together. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I appreciated it,
Well, that's all the kinds of things. Let's talk a little bit about the election itself. We got plenty of time to talk about everything, and I want to know what you've done and what changes in your structure. But I go back, and you've hired him as one of your special prosecutors for big cases, but I sort of was the name chair and maybe more than that for Stan Lefkoe's first campaign.
Okay.
So I know a little bit about prosecutor campaigns. And in those days, now what would be going back 30 plus, really the only people that got excited were sort of lawyers. I mean, it was hard to raise money because, like, who cares? Right. I don't expect to ever be charged with a crime.
Right.
Why do I care who the prosecutor?
Right.
To get a campaign event, it would like either be lawyers or friends. And what did you experience actually out there on the campaign?
Yeah, that's a really good point and question. So raising money as the prosecutor is not as easy as if you're going to be a county commissioner or the mayor, because
You can't get out jail free cards.
I'm not giving
They
out
have a
any.
job, but they got to have a law degree.
That's right.
There's no nothing business-wise I can do for anybody, or nothing I can do for anybody besides prosecute according to the law. So I think, though, Evansville's at a pivotal moment where we're having more gun crime than ever. We're having more crime than ever. And I think, that did inspire some people to say, hey, I'll attend this event.
I want to.
Oh, yeah.
You bring something up. I didn't mean to cut off the talk about raising money, but why is it we're having the increase in gun violence? I mean, I sign, I don't know how many arrest warrants and search warrants daily.
Yeah.
And there isn't a day goes by there isn't some gun-related matter involved.
Yeah.
Why is it?
It's happening nationwide. Certain guns or modifications to guns are being printed, 3D printed themselves, so it's in some ways more accessible. A lot of juveniles are being given guns now to commit crimes. But really, for Evansville, we are situated, as you know, in the tri-state with easy access out and in. So we're really, there's a lot of, it's very eye-opening, being in my position, all the serious crime that we're having here, not only involving guns, but fentanyl.
As we speak today, as we're preparing this show or doing this show, you got how many murder trials going on?
2. Yeah, we got a guilty right before I came. So
Really?
We've gotten all guilties so far this year, so I'm very happy about
Nobody
that.
bats 1,000. You know that.
Oh, I know that. It's coming, but hey, right now.
Right now, enjoy it.
That's right. That's right.
Well, that's just tremendous. So now, I always remember the movie Robert Redford. He was he goes through the whole campaign, and the last shot is him sitting there. He's been elected and upset the world, and it's now he's, what do I do now? So you get to the office, it's yours, the keys are yours, the desk and the chair, you're Madam Prosecutor. Everything you hoped, more, less. Oh my God, I didn't know how many problems there were. Talk about that.
Yeah. So it actually began before. Picturing like when I won, I pictured maybe like a month break. A little. Yeah, right. It was actually worse because everybody was calling me now, to ask me questions, and nobody wanted to make any changes without sort of getting my buy-in. But I'm not sworn yet, so I had to say I'm not sworn. It's the prosecutor's job right now. You have to. I'll see you when I get there. I will say we were well prepared to lead the office and manage. I think that's maybe the harder skill to learn, which I did that at the Attorney General's office. We had a great mentor and boss there. So
Cooperative transition?
The employees were very helpful. The staff was very helpful. It's been a lot of just picking up where things were left off. So.
Speaking of staff, where are you right now? You have a full staff?
I have 2 attorney spots open.
Okay.
I've kept them open purposely because I wanted to wait and see who we need, right? So I want to kind of handpick those people. But other than that, we're full staff. So yeah, they're doing a great job and getting it done.
So as a member of the tax-paying public, I will first know that Diana Moers is our prosecutor in the change I see in conviction rates, child support collect. Do you do child support collection?
We do.
Big time.
More aggressive. Fill in the blank.
Yeah. So I think the biggest change is going to be just the attention being paid to organization of the office. I've created some management positions so I can better know what's going on. And then I would say my personal involvement is really the biggest change. I've met with, we do not only enforcement, but community things. So meeting with community partners to see, how we help them. We're statutorily obligated to appear at certain things that public doesn't know about. For example, like reviewing infant mortality and child abuse and stuff like that. So doing that, having a hand in that, but also making sure internally in the office that I'm setting the prosecutors up to do the best job they can and giving them all the tools. So I'm personally involved in making sure we're setting up management positions so that I can know what's going on inside the courtroom. They have more discretion over their cases now to make decisions, so we can lighten up the court dockets. So hopefully we'll be seeing the results of that. We can keep cases moving. That's good for everybody. Justice delayed is justice denied, as we all know. And just really, I'm hands in. I'm there every day. If I'm not there, I'm at a meeting, and I'm there late. So I'm accessible, and people are seeing my face a lot, and that's kind of what the comments that I've been getting is, oh, you're always around, and we never expect to see
Give our viewers a
prosecutor
little
here.
sense of the magnitude of your office.
Yeah.
How many lawyers and how many employees?
Yeah, we have 24 attorneys and 80 employees.
Wow.
Give or take a few. So, we prosecute crimes. We have a huge child support enforcement division. They're going through a computer change right now for the state.
Right.
Vanderburgh County is a pilot for that. So they're dealing with that. We have investigators. We have a cell phone lab. I've also...
Cell phone lab. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so we have a lab in the office with state-of-the-art technology. They go to trainings in Alabama put on by the CIA and other federal partners. We have these machines that will extract cell phone data. So it gives us a lot of good leads in our cases and evidence. In almost every case, everybody has a cell phone now and Googles all sorts of things. We can tell locations and
That's the thing
all
people
of
don't
it.
realize.
Yeah.
As technology has changed all of our lives,
You betcha.
it's changed
Yeah.
the way you prosecute crime.
Oh, absolutely. And there's so many advances. So the guns are a huge deal right now. And the ATF is very involved in Vanderburgh County. And so we've also applied for a grant to turn that cell phone lab into a crime gun investigation unit. And that would give us some machines that would help us track bullets to get leads. So you almost track the gun as if it's a person, which is really important into solving. We have a lot of people that come in town and shoot and they leave. So it's really important to be able to track them and so we can get arrests.
Well, let's talk about your particular role. Now, Les and I are old enough to remember the Bill Bruni, Jeff Lance prosecutor model, which was more administrative, probably not go to court. I know Bruni didn't. I don't think Lance tried many.
Not many.
We also remember the very active Bob Pigman, Stan Levko, who rolled up their sleeves and tried the toughest cases sometimes.
Yeah.
So you're in either or you're down. You tell me what you think you're going to do.
I'm probably going to be a little bit down the middle. Mostly right now, there's a huge administrative burden. I think, there's a lot of attention that needs to be paid. We all saw the articles, getting finances straightened out, all that kind of stuff. We have tons of grants, money in the office, millions of dollars of grants. The cell phone lab is all grant money. So getting our heads wrapped around that, and then I'm the, in management, it's always what's the highest and best use of your time. So part of being a good leader is being able to delegate to the appropriate person. I have 24 people that can go to court and do trials. It's my job to make sure they have the resources to be trained and be able to do that. I will take some cases. I do have some cases that I'm on now, but for the most part, it's administrative right now, making sure that I'm doing what I need to do to keep the office a well-oiled machine. So
I want to shift gears here for a moment.
yeah,
Go back to the politics. It's your first time running for public office.
Mm-hmm.
You were successful. This year is a city election,
yeah,
and we have a contested primary, Republican primary, for mayor.
yeah.
And you come out publicly endorsing Commissioner Musgrave. Can you explain your thinking on that?
Yeah, yes. First of all, I like both the candidates. Natalie is great, Cheryl's great. It's just, to me, it's simple. If both of the candidates were walking into an interview, I would look, it's mayor, right? That's like a $480 million budget. I just think that Cheryl's very experienced, and so I think that she's the best person for the job.
But here's, look at, this is the first time you run for office. And I've never known a prosecutor to get involved in the respective parties' contested primaries. What made you want to do that?
Well, I'm a Republican, so I want a Republican to be the mayor. And Cheryl also really supports law enforcement. I have a personal interest in who the mayor is. I know that Cheryl's going to support law enforcement, and she's very interested in that. She's already done that with the sheriff's, salaries and things. So that's a big consideration for me as prosecutor.
But right out of the gate, Cheryl has divided your party right down the middle, disrespected the current administration, announced without knowing Winnecke's plans, a la Rick Davis, Jonathan Weinzeppel situation. And for you to have to pick in your first 2 months of office one faction of the Republican Party that will support her and one faction that will never forgive her is a pretty heavy decision.
Yeah, I didn't really look at it like that, I don't know that she did announce without knowing that Mayor Winnecke wasn't going to run.
She did.
Okay, well, and I don't really, if people want to be divided on that, that's fine. I don't feel like I like one side of the party or the other. I just pick individuals and,
Based on experience.
Yeah, well,
but
based
you
on
yourself had
experience
you'd never been in a prosecutor's role, so I mean.
Well, I had the experience to do it, and I was a deputy prosecutor before. I'd never been an elected prosecutor, but I was very well experienced to run for the job. I had lots of litigation experience. I had management experience, so I was very qualified to run for the position of
So
prosecutor.
will you take an active role in that campaign?
No.
So it was just more or less an endorsement.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
I
Because
see.
I think it's important for me as prosecutor. I know she'll support law enforcement. That's important to me, and she's held office for a long time, and being county commissioner sets you up well to be the mayor. So.
Does it have anything to do with your own aspirations? I mean, do you want to be a judge when you grow up? A lot of prosecutors have. Lance, Bruni, Pigman, Levko was. He kind of went the reverse.
He did.
Yeah, he did.
Do you have aspirations down the road which would make sense to keep your Republican Party ties or try to pick a winner?
I wouldn't rule it out someday, but for now, I love being the prosecutor. It's only been a couple months, and hopefully I have many terms as prosecutor.
There you go.
I
That's
really
your
like
goal
it.
right
yeah,
now. Uh-huh.
Right.
Our Indiana General Assembly is in session right now.
Really?
And this is called the long session.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any particular bills that you're monitoring that you think are very significant in general to crime and law enforcement in this state and locally?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to probably do a release since we're kind of at a little bit over halftime now. There is a bill to increase the level of penalty for animal abuse. I think that's important. I think those that abuse animals will abuse people. There's many studies on that,
Right.
and it's proven.
Right.
I care about animals as well. Wendy McNamara had a bill that was just successful involving police officers and issues that they encounter in the field. So
What about, this is the second time for this legislation that would allow the Attorney General, if you failed to prosecute on a certain matter, to step in and say, the county prosecutor's not going to do it. This law will allow the Attorney General to prosecute. I don't know where that is right now, but how do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And from being in the Attorney General's office, I can tell you they're very busy. And so I think that would be an extreme situation. I don't see them stepping in. And I think the discussion came up right when it was Marion County.
Yeah, the prosecutor said, I don't care what the law is, I'm no longer going to prosecute marijuana possession cases.
Yeah. And if you as the prosecutor, are sworn to uphold the laws of the legislature,
exactly.
and that's it, right? I mean, it doesn't really matter what I think about anything. I think I'm not scared by it. I'm gonna uphold the laws that are on the books, but and I think it'll be an extreme situation if it's ever employed, but it's probably a good fail-safe to have. I mean, just in case, you could have a rogue county prosecutor that says, I'm not prosecuting domestic battery or something they don't believe in, or DUIs, something like that. So,
but the other side of that coin is, and I really do appreciate your forthrightness. The other side of that coin is, you were in the Todd Rokita Attorney General's office. He certainly is not shy, and my party and people in my party think he's a moron and a jerk, but
he doesn't hold back.
But the fact is, he takes position. He files amicus briefs against Biden administration political matters. Picking up where we're talking about here, do you believe it's the role of the local prosecutor to take a position on transgender issues. I mean, Todd's outspoken on things that have nothing to do with crime. You would agree with that, wouldn't you?
Sure, yeah. He has a different, I think every AG kind of makes the office their own. I was hired by Curtis Hill when he was the AG. And
he didn't do very well.
Yeah, he was less vocal on,
But he liked the party.
Yeah, matters such as that. So
Sorry.
we, matters outside of the office. So yeah, I think, personally I'm not going to be commenting on anything
So
like that.
if people come to burn books in the local libraries, you're not going to take a stand on pornography.
Correct. I'll be in the courtroom prosecuting cases. That's where you can
that's
find
the proper role.
Yeah.
Now, you may disagree,
No,
Your Honor.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Let's talk about now a current issue in our last few minutes here. There's a local judge who was just interviewed in the paper about the new Supreme Court deal where we can have cameras in the courtroom. Now, how about your opinion? Because you're going to send your deputies in there. How does that affect, in your view, criminal prosecution?
Yeah, so I reviewed the amendment, and it's up to the judges. Thank goodness the parties have no say. But, being in government for a long time, transparency is really important. However, also having an effective, efficient courtroom is important. So the logistics of it, where are you going to put the camera so the jurors aren't seen? People are very nervous around a camera. This is what I would consider if I were the judge, because again, I have no say in this, really. So I would consider the type of case. Now, certain cases are excluded that we would want excluded, sex crimes and things like that. So those are out. But still, I think witnesses will be more intimidated and testify differently if there's a camera present, and jurors too. I mean, we don't have windows in the courtrooms even, so people can't look in and see who the jurors are necessarily. And even if you say, oh, it's not recording your face, I mean, things happen.
And the lawyers with a performative, flamboyant streak might perform to the camera and not to the...
I
can assure you one thing.
Yeah.
Jurors could not be viewed at all under the rule.
Right. I just, I think that it could make... There's a mistake or it makes people nervous. I mean, those are some considerations. But,
so
it'll be a challenge to do it the right way.
Yeah.
In our last minute, I know there used to be a helpline or something. Tell the public, the Diana Moers Prosecutor's Office, what you want the public to know in terms of your outreach, etc.
Yeah. So, we do many community outreach things, but if you, have a problem, call the police. We're getting rid of WeTip, but there are, you can call 911 and be anonymous.
Or after hours, call Pat.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, depending.
Evansville Police and Sheriff, I think Wiki posted on their webpage.
Right.
Evansville Police and Sheriff have numbers, and we're working on getting the office, up and running with the new administration and getting everything ready to serve the public. And our trials are going great so far. And so we're
once again, congratulations and thank you for making history in Vanderburgh County and on the revitalized Shoulders in Shively.
Happy to be here.
Thanks
Congratulations.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, the first show of the 2023 season. What do you think?
Well, great guest. It's kind of like riding a bike for you and me. Somehow it was just like we were doing this last week.
Back on the saddle again.
But I think no matter what side of the aisle you're on, rejuices my heart to see bright young people involved in government.
I agree.
You and I believe in that. We believed in it 25 years ago when we believed in it 40 years ago when we were starting our careers. She's got the owner's manual now, and I wish her all the luck in the world.
I do too. I wish she would not have jumped into this very contentious primary coming up, because she needs to retain her political capital to further her time in office and other pursuits, but
I had no idea she
water under the bridge.
I had no idea she did that, and if she'd have called me and said, "What do you think?"
Why would she call you in the first place?
Well, because she wanted sage political advice. I would have said, "Why in the world, 30 days in office, would you get in a divided primary that has split your party? You don't have to pick a team."
But looking at the positive aspects, I think anyone who sees this show will have to agree that she has a good feel for the job, and she's very committed to, excuse the term, delivering a good product.
She ran a good race, and early in, she's going to be in a controversial, you're over there every day. She's going to have a controversial, should I charge, what do I
Right.
charge? She's going to not charge somebody and make half the people mad. We'll see how she handles the real crises that are involved in that
Exactly, because there's no way that office can predict their workload.
office. Correct.
And it's always a surprise. When she walks in on Monday morning, she had no idea what she was going to be facing.
But as a father of daughter and as a father and a grandfather of triplet girls, I do salute her. It's a historical, another glass ceiling broken, and hats off to her. Hats off to Shively and Shoulders. Are we going to be on again?
April 13th at 7:30 in the evening.
We're kind of prime time.
Yes, we are.